far from home, doing what he can to keep the lights turned on. This city, man, it's got me headed.
Hello, and welcome to the eCommerce Redneck podcast. Today, we are talking about that discount squeeze when people get addicted to killing their own margins. And I've got an incredible lineup today. I have got Darin Lynch, which is going to be joining me here. And hold on. And Darin's from Irish Titan, and he's one of my heroes in this business. Really just love his style. He inspired a lot of what I do with the e-commerce redneck and the courage to get out there and do it. Darin, how are you doing? Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Good, Jeremy. Thanks for having me. Thanks for that humbling introduction. I would joke and say aim higher if I'm a hero. So as Jeremy mentioned, my name's Darin Lynch. I'm the founder and CEO of Irish Titan, hence all the green. My green shirt, green paint, picture of County Cork right here, my green Irish warrior here. So we're an e-commerce agency that I started 21 years. So I've been in e-commerce for a long time because I had accumulated significant e-commerce experience before starting my own company. Fast forward to today, the way I describe Irish Titan is that we build and grow e-commerce channels. And what I mean by that is we are building e-commerce sites with a variety of platforms. We're platform agnostic. So we work with Shopify, BigCommerce, Shopware, Magento, some custom work around that. We also work with our merchants to grow their e-commerce sites with e-commerce marketing strategies and activities, acquisition, conversion, retention strategies like email marketing, paid search, SEO, social, etc. So we build and grow e-commerce channels. We do that with a Titan-only model, which means we do our work with just our Titans, our employees. We don't use any contractors, freelancers, or offshore resources, and that's pretty rare in our space. And then the last thing I'll mention is we're closed only 2 days a year, St. Patrick's Day and the day after.
Yeah, well, this is a very Irish podcast right now because, like I told you before, I'm 53% Irish. So I don't know how we got that number, but it's a very Irish thing probably to have an off number like that.
Right. Yeah. There's always some shenanigans in the family tree. Yeah. 53 must be from like a 23andMe DNA test. Something like that. Yeah. So I'm 75% from what I've been told by my family, but I'm never going to take one of those DNA tests because it only goes down and I can't rebrand my company. I can't change Irish Titan to European Titan.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. My grandmother, I mean, just as Irish looking as it gets. I think where it really shows through for a lot of us is I have blonde hair, but my beard's red. Yeah. But without further ado, I also want to bring on the guest that you brought as well, Gina Potenza, who is, I think I may have done that a second. There we go. All right. Yeah, who is from Klaviyo, and I'm a big fan of Klaviyo as well. Klaviyo was a company that I got to work with to get early adoption at BigCommerce, help them get their first 100 stores. So very excited to see them as a dominant partner in the market, you know. So Gina, if you could tell us a little bit more about what you do and Klaviyo.
Yeah, amazing. Great. Thanks for having me. So Gina Potenza, I am our platform strategy lead. And what that actually means is earlier this year, Klaviyo started the work of category creation of the fact that we are the only CRM, customer relationship management tool built for B2C businesses. And you won't believe it. They need someone to think about what does that mean for all our wonderful partners, both agency and tech partners, and how can we make sure that that message is actually helping both brands and our partners really make more money and grow. And that's a lot of the fun work that I get to do, which is really thinking about, hey, we're about to talk about discounts and margin compression, and I'm sure we'll use the words AI and unstable economic conditions, aka tariffs, and like how can we make sure that as the world is changing around all of our wonderful customers and partners, how are we really helping them grow using Klaviyo and the tool set we've built? So it's a lot of what I think about. It's kind of crazy when I take a step back and like, wait, I get paid to think about this stuff all day. It's so fun. So that's what I do.
Well, I'd say, my first question is, what are owners doing to themselves, owners of these stores, whether it's a corporation or a mom and pop, what are they doing to themselves by getting addicted early on to discounts?
Yeah, I think I'll chime in there first, but before I even answer, I'm excited that Gina could join us. Gina and I have done a number of speaking engagements together, and we've had a number of off the record sort of conversations. And I really enjoy her insights and her style. She's fun to work with on stage and off stage. And Klaviyo is a premier partner of ours that we're investing a lot of time, talent, and treasure in. So thanks for joining us, Gina. I know it's Jeremy's podcast, but I wanted to thank you.
Thank you for cutting in. I love that. I'm a big fan too. You said premier partner of yours. Anybody that has Klaviyo as a partner has got a premier partner in that sense. Not in this, maybe in the exact same sense, but yeah. They are great with partnerships for any agency. They're a real pleasure to work.
Yeah, been great to work with and great solution.
Yeah.
Sorry, Gina, what were you saying?
No, I was going to say, one, you can tell that we're a great partner because I wore green for today, especially for you, Darin. I committed. I even painted, our office wall green, especially for you. I was in here early.
That's dedication.
Brush and all, exactly. I got to do it,
That is impressive. The extra mile for sure.
So
and what I like is a special touch of the guy behind you in the conference room with the green can.
He's not even a plant, guys. That's organic.
Destiny.
Okay. To get back.
Well, I think the summary that comes to mind is it's not just margin erosion that they are subject to. I think it's brand erosion, because if you start to train your customers to expect discounts or you start to have a natural reaction to addressing every problem with discounts, you're really eroding your brand. You're certainly eroding margin, but that will contribute to the perception of your brand, which then just weakens your ability to maintain margin, attract certain kinds of customers, go to market in certain ways. So to me, one of the pervasive concepts in thinking about what we might cover today is that risk of brand erosion when you become too addicted to discounting.
Right. Well, and if you think about it, when you go into a discount type store, like the other day, I went into a Walmart and I got really offended because I went to the self-checkout and they're like, you can't self-checkout. And I'm like, what do you mean I can't self-checkout? And they're like, you have to join our program. And I'm like, I'm not joining your program to check myself out, but it's like hard to make that play with people sometimes because it's like, they don't expect that from you. They expect discounts. And so they get disappointed. So that's kind of my take on it partially as well. But also, and I've said this before, people don't make money in e-commerce nowadays by mistake anymore, really. Not that often. You don't see a lot of, back 2015 and before, I saw a lot of people that I was just kind of scratching my head how they snuck through the cracks. But you really can ruin a store with certain behaviors. So Gina, what is your thoughts on this?
I think, it all comes down to one. Yes, it's the bad habits that we all have been trained in as consumers, frankly, and the fear that if I don't offer discounts, what am I going to do? And particularly in a time when what's not going to fly anymore is I think every e-commerce store thinks about their first product as a loss leader. And we can't live like that, right? Especially as we look at our margins going away because of whether it's tariffs or something else, rising cost inflation, those bad habits, exactly to your point, right? 2021 was a very different year for how consumers are spending versus what we're in today. And I think that actually what it is there's still a little bit of that, we can throw spaghetti at the wall and that's going to work and folks are going to come and buy. And I think actually the mindfulness is really missing. That's the big mistake of actually thinking about your audience and who you're targeting and being very precise with what message to what person, for what reason. We're used to this world of, hey, a discount's always the right thing to say. And actually there's a good chance that it's the wrong thing and you are devaluing your brand. You're training consumers to expect these discounts and you're just losing revenue from your most loyal customers. If someone's bought 10 times, they don't need a discount. They just like your product. Don't give them a discount. Let them buy, right? That kind of stuff. Just not being mindful, I think really is unfortunately, folks are stumbling over their own feet there because of bad habits that we've all been trained into.
Yeah, Gina, your comment sparked a thought in my mind because today's e-commerce solutions, whether it's platform or the marketing tools around it like Klaviyo, the tools are so much more advanced than they used to be. And I know the point of our discussion isn't the good old days, right? But eras past, it quite honestly just took longer to create product, create campaigns, and adjust. And so that eliminated the risk of being too reactive to some degree, and in some situations. Now you can test so quickly. You can add a new product. You can launch that in social. You can launch it on marketplaces. You can adjust pricing. You can do A/B testing. You can adjust the levers on your loyalty program. And I think that increases the risk of becoming reactive because the technology has advanced in so many ways that are positive, but every strength can be a weakness, et cetera. And so I think that contributes to some of the brand erosion. In addition, it creates actually a situation where the more discount intensive you are, you tend to see lower customer lifetime value because they become trained to expect that.
I love that. I really feel like that's true too. And that was really at Big Commerce with Klaviyo. That was the number one thing. It's like we were calling people up that were customers at Big Commerce and telling them, are you ready to be proactive and not reactive? And that was the message that they all bid onto. And that's the truth right there. If you're reactive, you have to keep doing stupid stuff sometimes, it seems like, or you tend to do those things that hurt you. And, I think if you use it with good measure, it can be a smart tactic. But, I guess the question is, at what point does it become poison?
It depends, right? It's the most annoying answer in the world, but if it is the only way you're driving sales, something's broken, right? Like your funnel, your entire customer. Jeremy, you don't know this, but Darin's absolutely heard me say this year. This is my year of the funnel is dead. It's insane. We talk about the funnel as like customers, what drop out the bottom of it? Oh, we don't care about repeat purchases. It's a crazy thing to say, right? It's the customer life cycle. But actually, if you are relying on discounts to close every single sale, like something in that customer journey is broken and you might not actually have product market fit. Like that is a very aggressive hot take, to be fair, and the extreme end of the spectrum, I would argue. But there is something to be said for, are you speaking to the right customer about the right thing? Because then it shouldn't be the discount, right? That's incentivizing. It's that you're actually solving a problem for this customer. And if solving that problem, really common objection we get to, hey, you shouldn't be discounting as much, as that like, well, all my competitors are discounting. And it's like, okay, well, is price your only differentiation? Are you a totally commoditized widget? Because if you're a totally commoditized widget, that's a very different conversation than if you are a brand with separate value that you are delivering to your customers. And how are you making sure that you know what that is and that you are communicating it to them?
Well,
Yeah, if you start to pursue discounting because you need more revenue, like if that's what you're thinking when you're driving home at night or walking from your living room to your kitchen after your day in the office in the living room, if it's because we need more revenue, we better start discounting some products, you're in trouble. Discounts are an absolutely valuable strategic approach, right? If you have a new product that you're trying to introduce to the market and you need to prime the pump a little bit, or you're testing a bundle, an intentionally bundled set of products, or you have some end of life sort of products you're just trying to push out, discounts can make sense. But if your reaction is we're low on sales, we got to introduce some discounts, that's when you're in trouble.
Yeah, I agree. I love that mentality too. It really is a mentality, it really is a mentality. With that said, Gina or Darin, what are some brands you've seen out there that really rock this as far as not getting too hard into the discount game?
Darin, all you, I've got perspective on this. I'm very curious for yours.
I think that one that comes to mind for me when I was thinking of what we might cover is YETI. They're not a client, so I'm not bumping a client here, but YETI, I think, does a good job, sometimes to a point where they can be made fun of for it a little bit, actually, and maintaining margin, investing in brand, discounting very, very selectively, right? They have trained their customers to pay for their brand, for high quality products. I don't know if we need a cooler that keeps ice cold for a week, right? And some of their strategy is what results in some of like there are a couple of TikTok, Reel, YouTube guys that are pretty funny, Ryan Miller and Charlie Barons. You've probably seen them because now they sometimes are on like halftime shows of football and basketball games, and they have some really funny bits about YETI and how, you know, it's a little bit overboard. But that's a brand that comes to mind when I think of one that's done a good job with their promotional discounting strategy. Very narrow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, another one, and you know, YETI, I think, started in Austin, and I don't know if it was Austin, but I believe Tecovas started in Texas. I could be wrong.
I think Austin too, actually. I could be wrong
Yeah.
too, but I think so.
And Tecovas is another one of those brands that holds to the quality and the standard of pricing. I don't know. I've never seen a discount from them. I'm not saying they don't, but that's not my impression of their brand. I can tell you that much. And that's hard to do when every other cowboy boot in Texas is trying to do a $75 cowboy boot to get to the top, you know, and I'm sorry that hurts your feet.
Yeah. And I could share one more. I actually have some Tecovas, by the way, but there's an apparel brand, Paul Frederick, that I have a number of shirts from, some jackets and overcoats, etc. And they do a pretty good job because just last week I got an email from them that combines personalization with discounting, because over the years they, like many retailers, have enhanced their personalization capabilities. Shocker, I buy a lot of green. Okay. And so they have some good high quality product. They had some end of season stuff that they were pushing. Green, got the email, bought that. But that's very selective. Conversely, in the fall, when I might be looking for something, like I have a green top coat that I really, really liked, I bought from them, and I paid full price because they're high quality and they were promoting the quality of it, et cetera. It wasn't an end of season targeted discount. So that's another one that comes to mind.
What if your store sold like your best salesperson automatically? Recamaze is your AI sales assistant. It turns first-time visitors into buyers from the very first click. It starts with real-time engagement, capturing shopper behavior as it happens. Then it recommends the right products tailored instantly to every action. Visitors can search by voice or by text. Just ask, and the AI finds what they need. From show me a MacBook 2020 M1 to I need an iPhone 16 Pro, Recamaze understands. They can save items to wish lists or add to cart with AI suggested variants and bundles. It's fast, frictionless, and built for action. Need help? Recamaze answers instantly by text or voice. From shipping to sizing, it's your 24/7 product expert. Recamaze drives 25% more first-time conversions, up to 40% more revenue, all without cookies or dev work. Ready to turn traffic into sales? Try Recamaze now or book a demo.
Comes to mind. I want to hear Gina's perspective.
Yeah.
Mine is, I'm giving you guys all my annoying answers today. You're welcome. It's like a theoretical way. It's a model for thinking about if it's a brand that's not going to give you a discount, which is like, do they want to create perceived extremely high value? Both examples you guys gave, right? Really high, all three examples, really high quality products they want to hold the line on. Do they actually want to have exclusivity and like a brand image of this is really cool and exclusive? So if you think about all, like, I don't think any of the couture that LVMH, Louis Vuitton, Moet, Hennessy, they don't discount any of their, like, if you think about their top designer brands, their clothes. Meanwhile, the cosmetics that they own, like Lancome, I think it's owned by LVMH, discounts all the time, right? Really important distinction of what they're trying to drive. And then actually, do they have direct control over distribution? So I was reading, this is also a deep dive into what a nerd I am, but like Canada Goose, right? Publicly traded company is having its ups and downs. And so I was reading their earnings, and they were saying that something they really struggle with is actually maintaining MSRP because they have they don't discount. Canada Goose doesn't really go on discount, but like the Saks Fifth Avenues of the world will try to move their stock, right? So like Apple, it's a lot easier for Apple to not discount. Because, or Tesla, right? I actually don't know if Tesla discounts is a bad example, but those are all really giant examples, but they're all really helpful frameworks for thinking about the why, because I think we forget again that like, it's very easy to look at these brands and be like, well, right, I'm not one of these giant brands. Even Tecovas, right? They're a very big business. And it's hard for smaller marketers to lean into that, but it's also about the like why and the data. And again, going back to understanding what are you trying to do with discounts rather than to Darin's point, like if it is to drive revenue, I can guarantee you there's a better path there because you're able to sell fewer units for more top line revenue. Like, right? That means that there's more opportunity to not discount.
I think people should be looking at their tech stack too. Honestly, you should look at your tech stack and see if it is the problem before you get into, discounting and stuff. There's so many tools that can help you convert better and things like that, like Klaviyo.
Yeah, if I may, I'd like to chime in on that because I think that e-com exploded in 2020 and 2021. Obviously pandemic driven, but also it was a convergence of pandemic driven circumstances and technology enablement. The platforms had really matured, Shopify, BigCommerce, the MarTech stacks were available and really becoming very, very powerful, easy to use, like I mentioned earlier. I think that there was a mad rush for a year or two of replatforming, launching new brands, going online if you weren't yet, et cetera. Then it sort of plateaued. And I think that we in the industry were caught by surprise by that. And I don't think we should have been, because what we should have seen, and some of us, I think, saw this and spoke to it, is in early eras of e-commerce, a merchant rightfully had to spend most of their time, talent, and treasure on launching their site and keeping it running. They really couldn't afford much bandwidth, whether that's time, talent, or treasure, towards their marketing activities. Some, especially the bigger, more enterprise global kind of brands, but that has become commoditized now, more ubiquitous, a more everyday availability. And the merchants who recognize that are the ones who looked at their tech stack. To your point, that's what sparked this thought when you brought up tech stack, and realized, hey, our site is good. We're on a platform. We can leverage the site. It has good shelf life. We don't need to rebuild the site. Now let's surround it with Klaviyo. Let's surround it with GrowWave. Let's surround it with Recharge. Let's build these additional tech solutions into our platform so that we can maximize our acquisition, conversion, and retention strategies, because we have the good fortune now of having more time, talent, and treasure to dedicate to that. And I think the merchants who won over the last few years are those who recognize that. I think those of us on our side who did well over the last few years are the ones who recognize that. I mean, Klaviyo, that is your business. Irish Titan, I began shifting us from primarily building sites in like 2015 was when I started to see an emergence of the marketing opportunity there, and started to shift us then. So we diversified our service offering. And, I just think that we're in this new era where the merchants that win are the ones that examine their tech stack, make sure they have the right tools that can not just build the site and have a good site with shelf life, but those acquisition, conversion, retention tools.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, something, one time I had an experience where I gave a piece of advice to somebody to switch to a pay in four. They had a sports equipment type site with a very specific product. I recommended this on a Monday. They put it on that day. By Thursday, they called me and they said, I made $79,000 additional dollars this week. And tech stack is like that. People don't get that sometimes. Unlocking those little things, partnering with Klaviyo. I'm telling you right now, if you don't dig in with Klaviyo and you're a user, you have lost your mind. There is so much good content, and you can get really good at doing things and get help with things that will blow up your business. Sorry, little promo for you there, Gina, though.
It's better. I'm going to shut up. I'm not going to talk about how the most important part of Klaviyo is our unified data platform that everything is built on. I'm going to let you guys sell for me.
Yeah. Well, did you have something to say?
So that was a sincere. I'm going to shut up and let you guys sell for me. So no. Anything I say is going to be less genuine than that. So I'm all in.
Well, guys, thank you so much. I think what we should do now, because we have a very interesting audience here, is take a couple of questions on the topic. Maybe talk to them for a second. I know, Jeffrey, you had your hand up a while ago. Did you have a question?
I was going to ask the question about discounts or no discounts. To me, it seems like it's very relevant to what products, right? So some products are long-term products. Some things are like groceries. So in Asia here, the people are very aggressive at chasing discounts, 2 for 1, buy two, get one free, those kind of things. Even Lisa, she's like, the receipt lady. She's got all the discounts and the apps, and she knows which well, we go here to buy that, and we go there to buy this. And the two big competing department stores aggressively check each other and try to outdo each other by packaging stuff up. So it's like a crowd control thing here. So I'm wondering about where you would do sales and discounts and where you wouldn't.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Darin, it was a cat. We had cat ass on.
Yeah. That's a first. I've been in a lot of situations online and offline, but that's the first podcast I've been on with cat ass.
Sorry about that.
I'm not easily offended. I'm just laughing at it. I think that you make a great point in the sense of product is going to impact discounting strategy, particularly something, you mentioned grocery. Grocery is heavy with discounting strategies, and some of it's because of the shelf life, right? Like products expire. And so those with shorter shelf life are those that are more prone to discounts. And the other thing that I think grocers do, that's not really reactive, but it's more reactive, at least at its core, than intentional bundling. So for example, around 4th of July or Labor Day or Thanksgiving, any of these sort of milestone holidays where there's certain sort of family dining kind of styles or event dining styles, they typically bundle a lot of the discounts. So maybe 4th of July, brats or hot dogs or patties, buns, and some sides. Like there's a certain package of groceries that they bundle. That's intentional. That's strategic. But the product itself is absolutely driving a lot of the promotional strategy. There's no doubt about that.
There's an interesting anecdote. When I was working for the retail companies here, the large groceries, the large retail system, right? And connecting everything up. But they had a phrase called PD. And for the first couple of weeks, I thought they were talking about physically disabled. And it's only later I realized it was promotional discounts. Terminology is
No joke. Well, thank you, Jeffrey. We really appreciate the question. Anybody else have a question or something to say? Something to ask the guest here?
Oh, Joe.
Can I go,
Brand?
Jeremy? This was great, by the way. And what do you think of like adding on a valued digital product rather than, taking money, discounting it financially, adding on like a digital product?
David, before I live a life of like strategy and thinking about this big stuff, I was a SaaS sales rep, and the best sales manager I ever had told me that the best discount you can ever provide is the one that actually adds more value to both sides, right? This concept of discounting up. It's the same way that actually bundles and perceived discounts over bundling, incredible, right? Because you're actually increasing average order value, basket size, LTV, and the consumer feels like they're getting a good deal. Like digital products, great example of that. Early access to drops, right? Ways to make like insiders feel really special of early access to collections. All of these things, I know we didn't talk about it, but loyalty programs have become effectively cashback programs, right? It's just like keep buying. It's like your punch card at your coffee place where it's like if you buy 10 cups, you get one free. Is that actually just whatever your like 30-cent discount per cup? That's what loyalty programs have become instead of it's really hard, right? But to actually add value back to consumers on the things that they care about, exactly digital products. Anyways, it cannot be more enthusiastic about it. The catch is it's really, really hard if you do not have a full view of your customer, right? Frankly, I think that Klaviyo customers are winning. And like the reason that we work with 70% of Bain's list of companies that are growing next faster than their competitors is because if you do not have that data, it is so hard to actually target without it feeling like things just fall flat. Frankly, like I don't really want a digital guide. I'm not that guy. But if you do a bundle, you're really going to incentivize my purchase, right? Early access. So knowing that consumer means having that data and means having access to it, being able to analyze it and use it. And that's really, really difficult, right? It's easier said than done, but it's so powerful when you can execute against it.
Awesome answer. Thank you, David, for the question. Brandon, you had a question.
Yeah, it's actually right along the same lines. So I was thinking, when you're not a leader, when your brand's not a leader in the industry, right? You're trying to get out there, you're trying to gain momentum. I mean, as marketing agencies and things like that, we have to put wind in the sails. So in that, we do try and do promotions and things like that. But again, back to bundling, we have so much all for bundling that we actually built our own app in BigCommerce called BundleBees just for this purpose. And I think that's a great way, like you were saying earlier, that's already been said, to add value for the user and still allow the merchant to walk away with extra margin.
Oh, yeah, if you're not auditing that tech stack and looking at advantages, that's half the battle.
Right.
Or utilizing, some kind of related products or upsell or something, to try and offset it. I just think it's really important that, we're there as an agency to help gain additional momentum for these merchants. And a big way that we do that is by trying to offer some kind of discount.
Yeah, I'll bounce off that a little bit because at least what some of your point sparked in me was how to go to market, right? And there's some consistency across different business models and different industries with how you approach pricing. And so in Irish Titan's earlier days, we definitely didn't have the pricing power that we do now. And so when I was building Irish Titan or adding new service lines, I have priced lower, not that I'm discounting it, as much as we don't have the pricing power to go to market at a higher price yet. And, I think that that's one of the ways you introduce new products if you're a retailer or if you go to market as a new business. And there's actually a business strategy called the Horizons model that McKinsey put together that speaks to that, right? Like there's Horizon 1, 2, and 3. Horizon 1 is what you do today really well, that you have confidence, you can execute, you can maintain margin. You don't really have to discount it unless you're a discount brand. And so when you first go to market, you don't really have H1 kind of stuff. Your H1 work is what you can price at a premium level. H2 is work that is on that next horizon. It's adjacent to what you do now. But you don't do it as well, not as reliably, and so you can't price it as powerfully until you smooth out those rough edges, start to execute it more consistently, have built in our case, it'd be like case studies and muscle memory, et cetera, then you price it more powerfully. So there's even a whole business model around how you go to market, how you introduce new service lines, how you introduce new products. And there's an intersection between that and pricing and discount strategy.
Answer.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Anybody else have a question?
Sure. I don't know if it's more of a question, maybe more of a statement, but I guess if I have a couple pages, right, for my store and there is 4th of July is coming up and I might need to have different promotions for an existing audience that I already have, like an existing customer versus a new customer. Can you give me a couple of things that, Klaviyo can do to help out with that? Maybe we have A/B testing scenarios that we can do for different pages or percentages or dollars off amounts. Can you just give me a couple of examples that might help out?
Darin, you got anything? I'll let you go first.
Why don't you go first? Because I was just talking about Horizon stuff, so I'll give you the floor.
All right. I think the first and foremost is yes, of course. A/B testing, right? There's a lot of A/B testing, a lot of like forms, the actual pop-ups, the interactive pieces of not only what's actually displaying on your website, but the information that you're collecting on your clients, right? Or on your end customers, which I think is incredibly important, that data collection. But then also actually the analytics, I would argue, is just as important of what you're doing, right? So being able to see how are my omni-channel tying together the testing so that you're not getting a different push notification, SMS, email, and then on-site experience. How do we make that really cohesive per profile and different type of customer? How are we actually segmenting them to make sure it's really consistent? It's a really key part of what's within Klaviyo. And then the second is actually analyzing and being able to, how do we create those segments and actually testing those segments against each other, and then potentially getting more advanced and actually running analysis on like, how do we bucket our customers based on the recency, frequency, and monetary value of what they're buying, and then show hide blocks for discounts where basically your more loyal customers who are spending more and buying more frequently literally show hiding discounts is a really powerful tool to test for how that's impacting revenue. So sorry, that was a long list of things, Jake, but hopefully helpful.
No, yeah, very good. Thanks so much. It really helps out. I appreciate it. Yeah, I love that Klaviyo is so good with the data back discounting and the different segments and specific incentives that we can use. Thanks.
Of course.
Excellent. Well, guys, I am going to go ahead and close the podcast here, but I wanted to say thank you so much, Darin and Gina, and for coming on. Did you have any closing statements before we leave? Maybe something you wanted to leave the guests with and the audience online?
Go ahead, ladies.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. I would say the biggest one is to not feel discouraged, right? It can feel really, really scary to start tapering down discounting. You don't have to rip the Band-Aid. You don't have to go 0 or 100 to 0, I guess, in this case. But it is really, really critical to start being mindful, to start testing different ways of incentivizing purchases and actually seeing the results and bearing it out. Don't do it for a week. You're going to see a revenue drop. You're going to see sales down your first week of not running some crazy discount, right? If you're running a different discount every week, it'll take a while, but it's really worth it for the new kind of audience you're going to build for your new clients and for the longevity of your business. And of course, make sure you're tracking that data. Make sure you have a really good read on the customer journey and who it's impacting. Like it's too finicky of a process to do blind. So don't throw spaghetti at the wall, but definitely do it.
That's great advice. As people got to be a little tough too when you're breaking that cycle. It's just like anything. Darin.
I guess the summary that comes to mind for me is that discounts aren't going to grow your business. Profits will. And if you are discounting too much, we already said margin erosion, right? That was what phrase we used at the very beginning. Then that is going to float right down your P&L and negatively impact your profits. So remember, discounts aren't going to grow your business. Profits will. Use them sparingly, use them precisely, use them smartly, and they're a great lever to push product or introduce new product, et cetera, things we already talked about. But remember, profits are what's going to grow your business. And so to Gina's point, don't start to panic. Don't start to overreact. Maintain your focus. Know who you are. Be who you are. Focus on profits and use discounts sparingly.
That's a good word too. Profits grow business. Jeez, that's simple. It's kind of like keep it simple, stupid. That right. Old saying.
Yep.
Oh man, thank you so much. Well, I really appreciate it, and thank you for coming on the e-commerce redneck. And I'm sure the audience and everybody else is going to love this one. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for having
Jeremy.
us.
Thanks, Gina.
Country boy off a far from home, doing what he can to keep the lights turned on. This city man has got me head at